Leadership Roundtable. I actually forgot to do introductions last week. Totally my bad. But McMinnville Community Media gave everybody the caption anyway. So with us, we have McMinnville City Councilor Kelly Menke, Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Kabula. We have Joya Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce. We have Takesha Wydrow from Sheridan Revitalization Committee and many other things. The list is too long. We have Mayor Linda Watkins from the City of Carlton. We have Mayor Scott Hill from the City of McMinnville. We have Councilor Shirley Ward Mullen from the City of Carlton. We've got Council President Remy Drabkin from the City of McMinnville. And we have Steve Sugg, Superintendent for the Dayton School District. We have Brian Van Bergen, our very own County Clerk. And hopefully he can tell us about all of the races that are coming up. And then we have Lori Gilmore, and sometimes I promote her to panelists, but she likes to just listen, from the City of Yamhill. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for accommodating the technical challenges that we had going forward. And while we wait for Fritz Graham from Senator Wyden's office to give us a congressional update, I'm going to turn it over first to Clerk Brian Van Bergen. Hopefully he's available at this moment to share with us what he'd like to share with the community. And welcome, Clerk Van Bergen.
Well, thank you very much. And hello, everyone. Always a pleasure to see you all, and thank you for the opportunity to chime in. It's not one of those things that everyone's got on their radar, so it's a perfect opportunity to bring that forward, is that we are in the middle of yet another election. So everyone thought that the elections were over, and that's yesterday's news, but here we are again, and it's time to ramp up for mostly school board and fire board. So that's the long and short of it. The folks in Newburgh will know that there's Chehalem Park and Rec also happening, but the last day to file for these offices is right around the corner. It's the 18th of March. So it's just a few weeks away from the filing deadline. And you're going to be talking, Commissioner Kula, this afternoon a little bit about opening up and maybe not opening up and the extreme risk and all that jazz. But what we want to remind everyone is that most of the functions of filing can be done remotely still. So you can file your documents by sending in a PDF of the filing form and sending it to us, email or fax or through the mail, and we can take your $10 payment by credit card. So folks can file for both the running for school board, and they can get their voter pamphlet statement to us and not even have to step foot in our office. So it's one of those things that we're pushed last year, and it became very popular, and it's still working. So that's the kind of thing that we want people to know.
Fantastic. Thank you, Clerk. Are there questions from folks here? Councilor Drabkin asks if you can put the contact information for filing and the available seats in the chat. And then Superintendent Sugg has a question.
Hi, Clerk. So my question is, what's the best way for school districts like myself to check in and see if somebody has registered and filed for a position?
That is an excellent question. Thank you for it. We don't post every day, but we try to post every 2 or 3 days an updated list of the filed candidates and any measures. So what I'm about to post in the chat is a series of links. Basically, if you go to the clerk's page, the Yamhill County clerk's page, jump to the current year elections, we've got a number of links there on that current year elections page. One of them is the list of filed candidates. One is the list of positions that are open. I'm going to link the calendar also. We have an abbreviated calendar that I'm trying to make it a little easier for people to follow, because the state's calendar is 20 pages long. So I'm going to post all that in the chat right now. Right now we're skimpy. We have just a few school board members that have filed, a few fire board members, and only one Chehalem Park and Rec person filed so far. So lots of room for activity.
Perfect, thank you. And are there any other questions? It looks like Mayor Watkins has unmuted herself.
Yeah, actually, I don't have a question. I just want to thank Brian Van Bergen in his office for the wonderful job that they are doing. I had to do registration last year, and I think your people spent a lot of time on the phone with me, and they were very, very patient. They were wonderful, and it just made things a lot easier. So just wanted to give you a heads up and thank you very much, and thank your staff.
Thank you very much. I'll pass along the kudos.
Thanks.
Awesome. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? I mean, we could all praise him since a lot of us have interacted with our clerk. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to, I get excited about each election season. So it's fun to see who steps up and who wants to continue doing this elected office work. So thank you. And we have with us, apologies, Fritz, for not getting you the link. We all had a little bit of trouble with it. But Fritz Graham from Senator Wyden's office has joined us, and I've asked him to give a little bit of a congressional update. There's a lot of different things happening, but some of them are more pertinent to our county than others. So Fritz, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I just got an email, so let me check. The biggest thing on everyone's mind right now is the American Rescue Plan. Looks like the House is going to vote on it this Friday or Saturday. Then it goes to the Senate. Now, it depends. So the Senate did what is known as a vote-a-rama on the reconciliation bill, which is what this is. And they start at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they vote through. It's kind of it's a model of what they want the bill to look like, and they vote. They went till 3:30 Eastern time last time, 3:30 a.m. They have to do the same thing again. I don't know why. It's part of the sausage making process, but they have to do that again. So when they get the House bill, if the House has amendments, they'll do their vote-a-rama, but it's going to be pretty much the same thing. But then it's got to go to if they have different amendments in the House bill, then it's going to have to go to conference in the conference, and so they can work out those differences. Senate is looking at next Friday for doing that, but it might be the next one depending on what happens. So nothing will happen for the finalization of that bill until at least the what date is that? The 12th. So we're looking at going in Thursday the 4th, but it might be Thursday the 11th. So it's moving forward. The House is going to take it. Some people want it to move faster. Some people want it to move slower. So, but that's what we're looking at. What's in the bill? I mean, you can pick up a newspaper. I can't remember because they did the last one 3 weeks ago, and so I don't know.
You beat me to that question, right?
If you have questions, specific questions, though, put them in the chat or email me, and I'll find out if something's in or out of the bill. I know it has money for state and local governments, for county and local governments, that wasn't in the previous one because everyone on the delegation has been fighting for that because we know how important that is. I got a call today from Marion County about, we can't afford the number of tracers we have unless we get some more money. So it goes right down to that real basic level. So.
Yeah, that's a really good example of what the money's going to. All right. Are there questions for Fritz about is it the American Rescue Act?
Yeah.
All right. It looks like mine were the only ones. Oh yeah.
I have one question. So if this bill passes with the PPP, the new PPP loan, that I just heard some information on the news about that, and they're saying that the new loan would be for employers with 20 or less. I think it's 20 or less employees. It's real small businesses, and that they would have resources available more locally to assist. So it would be direct for the businesses instead of filing through banks, and that they would have on the ground resources to assist businesses and or a hotline. So I know that's a lot of information, but I mean, so I'm just wondering if that's going to be available in Yamhill County.
I'm not sure, but I'll find that out by the end of the day and get it out to. I'll get it out to Casey, and then you can send it out.
Thank you.
That sounds great. I was trying to type a message into Joya because she may have some more information. Her teeth tell us no, not yet. Oh,
Sorry,
I
I had to
actually
take a
know.
call. I'm so sorry. So I missed, I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
Councilor Wood-Mullen was asking more about the details of the 20 and smaller employee businesses with the new PPP.
I don't know. So let me ask. Let me look into that and I can get back to you.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, Joya. So
Okay,
I will.
great.
Of what's in the bill. So
We'll
I'll get an email out before the end of the day, and if there's any follow up, please let me know.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And then Fritz and I both saw that, or you probably aware, there's a push to get the small venues or the independent venues program up and running. Fritz, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, give me 1 second, because we made a couple of inquiries on that. There's an updated FAQ under SBA, but air shows don't qualify, but community theaters, there's no requirement for paid actors, which is a question we got asked. And the answer, fixed seating is good. So there was a question about that for community theaters. I will send you out the FAQ because it's been up. It gets updated about every week now.
Okay, great. And there's not a sense really yet of the timeline for opening that program up.
They're looking, within the next couple of weeks because they're putting together the rules on that. So what I heard about a month ago was 2 weeks ago was about a month. So maybe another couple of weeks. I've got the Q&A. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And in case folks are wondering, it's the previous round of coronavirus relief funding set up specifically a fund for independent venues. What it's like theaters, movie theaters, playhouses, concert venues. Apparently not wedding event centers though, right? Joya maybe can shake her head if she confirms that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess they had to cut off a line somewhere, and Senator Schumer, I understood, was pretty influential in that. So maybe he doesn't like weddings as much as other things. I don't know. We have a lot of places where people get married around here, so I just want to point that out. And one of them, clerk reminds me with his eyebrows, is him. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And get us the information that you can. There's a lot of venues there's a lot of folks who are really concerned, what are we going to do this spring? So it would be great to have more for them. Are there other questions for Fritz today? Fritz, what's the status of the American River Democracy Act? Is that what it's called?
Yes, it's a bill that Senator Wyden put in to add to the number of wild and scenic rivers in the state of Oregon. Senator Wyden, there's a couple ways to put out a bill. One is to go out and ask everybody about, get the input and then create the bill. He asked for input on what rivers he wanted, got that, and then put together the bill. And now it's a starting place for others. So it was introduced a couple of weeks ago, and we're still looking for information on what people want in it, but it's been introduced.
Right, that makes sense. There's a long, I read through the whole thing, which is, it's a lot of place names. I'll just note, distances and place names, because the bill literally explains from here to here on this creek for hundreds and hundreds of creeks. Is the plan to include stretches of river from across the country? Or is it just...
This was just in Oregon right now.
Okay, that's what I was learning about, yeah.
And it's not, and it doesn't do an entire river. It doesn't do the Willamette River. Well, and it wouldn't anyway, but because there's a number of rivers that are already on it or parts of it. So it's all different parts for very specific reasons. trying to get, again, when people submitted, they, I mean, it was environmental groups, but it was also local entities, cities and towns and small areas to say, look, if we could, protect this, then we can have river rafters or something like that. So it's across the board on what it the reasons for it, and we looked to not limit as much, not limiting access, not limiting this or that, to say people can't use it. It was what they can use things for, the rivers.
Right. And in this case, one of the stretches is the upper reach or parts of the upper reach of the Nestucca River watershed. So this is an area that's important to, especially people in McMinnville and Carlton, since you get, and Yamhill, you get some water from there. So it's nice to see, I think.
And I can get information on that out to anybody also.
What was the bill name again? What?
I've got to remember.
Or if I were researching, what would I look
American Rivers Democracy Act?
Yeah, American Rivers Democracy Act. The River Democracy Act.
There you go.
I'll put a link to the press release in the chat.
Thank you.
And Mayor, there's a good map that's associated with it, at least with the press release.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Are there other questions for Fritz? All right, great. Thank you very much for joining us, Fritz. Really appreciate it. And apparently, I apologize. I've not been sending. Somehow, people get dropped and added, and I haven't been sending them to Stacy from Merkley's office. So she's now back on the list. But with that, I would love to go to Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville. Mayor, what would you like to tell people today?
Thank you, Commissioner, and those on the line. A couple of things, as we're talking about electrical and power outages, Mac Water and Light last week had everybody back online by Friday. Mac Water and Light in the city are now in the process of doing the cleanup of trees that have fallen on public land or in the right of way for Mac Water and Light. For those that have been out and about, you can see that it didn't take long for Linfield College to have professionals out because they had a total chaos on their front with the oak trees, and they're being cleaned up as today. 24 hours makes a lot of difference if you have the right people coming in. Last Friday had an opportunity to be I'm a part of the LOC Transportation Committee, and we had an opportunity to meet with ODOT and LOC and talking about COVID-19 funds that are coming for transportation. Primarily, there's a multi-million-dollar fund coming to the state to help us with COVID relief. And for transportation, COVID relief is all about state gas tax. We've lost tremendous monies from that. And so we talked about how we would distribute those monies equitably. And if you're in a transportation corridor, like I think it's Portland, Salem, or Eugene, you get direct compensation, and the rest has to go through ODOT, and we determined that we would take those monies and give up to the cities by population in the way that we get a gas tax. And so more to come. It was an opportunity for LOC to weigh in from a policy procedure to the state, but we had Travis Brower, who is the assistant director, on the line, and we can see some things happening in the future. So money's coming in to help us in the area of transportation. This morning, Councillor Menke and myself had an opportunity to testify before a House committee on the House Committee on House and Committee on Housing, and there were 4 bills that were in front of the committee today and having public hearings. And Kelly and myself testified on House Bills 2006, which is the emergency shelter requiring local governments to allow sitting of qualifying emergency shelters and entities within the use of land use laws and regulations. And then we also talked about House Bill 2004-3, and that one primarily is directing the Housing and Community Development Department to study issues relevant to housing and reporting to appropriate committees and the dollars that are associated with that. I'll leave those kinds of things for Kelly to address if she'd like, especially House Bill 2004-3, which is, we didn't talk about it, but that has some money earmarked for McMinnville specifically. And we heard from Representative Noble this morning that they have gotten the updated version with McMinnville in to be at the next public hearing, or at least being taken to the committee for discussion and hopefully going to the House for approval. The only other thing that I would have tonight is we have City Council this evening, and I just wanted to share a brief, our agenda. 5:30, we're going to be continuing our discussion as it relates to goal setting, and we'll have Wendy Stassens coming in to help us go through that process. At 7 o'clock, we will be having a presentation on climate plans by Josh Proudfoot, of Principle of Good Companies, talking a little bit about the effects of climate emissions and adapting to the future. So that should be an interesting, and that's a learning opportunity for the council. We are then going to have the evaluation of our city manager, Jeff Towery, doing his annual review. A couple of other things that we have in front of us this evening. We have just as we've done at Mac Water and Light, we're going to extend the resolution, the emergency declaration of the city of McMinnville tonight for another 30 days. And then we're going to also do an ordinance of taking the affordable housing task force and moving it to a permanent standing committee. We've been doing this now for almost 5 years, and so it's more than just a task force, and our work is just starting to move forward, and Remy may be able to talk a little bit about that, but we'll also have a resolution appointing members to that task, from the task force over to the committee, and then we're going to have a letter of support for the Housing Authority of Yamhill's financing request to the Oregon Housing and Community Services for Affordable Housing in McMinnville. So we've got a pretty well-packed agenda tonight. We would ask anyone that would like to join in, feel free to do so. And with that, any questions?
All right, great. Thank you, Mary. Other questions? All right, thank you for that very thorough update and looking ahead. And I'm gonna make sure that we get our mayors all covered before going to city councilors. So Mayor Watkins from Carlton, what would you like to share with people today? And welcome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, well, Carlton's back online finally. I think at this point, we pretty much have everybody in town back onto electricity. Some of them just got a few just got turned on, I think yesterday or day before yesterday. It's been a kind of a rough haul around here. Our staff was pretty amazing. They fortunately had pulled the department heads together several days before the storm hit, and so had made some planning and gotten some ideas on who was going to be doing what, where the responsibilities were going to be, which, like McMinnville, we had a lot of trees down and some pretty difficult situations. So I can't say enough right now for what our staff did. And we're getting ready to start our goal setting, which will be this Saturday. And our council president, Ward Mullen, has over the years talked a lot about emergency planning and an emergency plan for the city. And I think that's probably maybe going to be a big part of our goal setting this year as we talk about some of that, because certainly this last week maybe kind of drilled in that we need to do a little bit more along that line. I think our biggest thing was just the power outages and trees down in a few places that were pretty unfortunate. We had one fall on one of our bed and breakfasts. So fortunately it was, and these people had just put a whole bunch of money into really refurbishing. It's one of the larger, older homes in town. So it's going to be a while for them getting it back up and running, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, and nobody was injured. So that's all that we're grateful for there. And right now, I think that's about the main thing that's on our minds, is just getting through the goal setting, and I think getting the emergency planning. So there we are.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor. And then apologies before we go to counselors too. We have both Jody Christensen from Regional Solutions Coordinator for the Governor's Office and Wendy Belize from PGE who joined us. So what I'm going to do, apologies, Jody, is I'm going to ask Wendy if she can share with us just a quick update, recognizing her time is very valuable. And Jody Christensen may take a little bit longer explaining how things change as we move down a risk level. So welcome to both of you. And I hope, okay, good. I've got the thumbs up from Jody. Welcome, Wendy. We got a little bit of updates from cities about how things are going, but how are you? And thank you for joining us.
Yes, no, thank you. And thank you to all the cities for your patience. I just want to thank Yamhill County. Casey, you've done a lot of strong, for those who aren't aware, he's done some very strong advocacy on behalf of Yamhill County communities and residents. And he's identified vulnerable areas that we have prioritized. Again, we appreciate the feedback of understanding these vulnerable members in our community. And so I just want to say thank you to Casey and certainly Yamhill County and all the cities for their patience. It's been a long haul. What I can say is, and you may have already heard it, we have more crews in the field than at any other time in our 130-year history. That's how significant of a storm this is. And I've been with the company, I'm going to age myself. Sorry about that, that's my dog. I've been with the company for 30 years and can say I started out as a meter reader, and I have never seen this kind of damage and I've been on the ground in the field. So this is an extraordinary event. What the good news is that I can say is we're in the final 2 stages. And if I can just bring it up real quick, we're in the final 2 stages. So this is when it becomes really difficult to bring large numbers of people back into service. These are the 1 to 5 and individual services. And generally those with the extensive damage and require more debris removal and more work. And I can't imagine what you all have seen in terms of, because I've driven around and seen some of the damage. But also I am fully aware that in particular, the Willamina area and Sheridan area was hit pretty hard. We know the Amity area was hit very hard in terms of some of the information that I've gotten. Today, what I can say is that we have 10 crews in the Sheridan, Willamina area. So they're dedicated to that region. We have 7 dedicated in the Newburgh area. Again, everything basically in the eastern side of Yamhill County. So we have approximately 17 crews in Yamhill County, probably more, but that's based on what I can see right now. I'm going to get updates every 2 hours. But again, I just want to emphasize that we're in that final phase. So it's going to be, this is the long haul. This is where it gets really hard. And we're on the 13th day. So this is also where you're getting, as leaders, you're getting a lot of very frustrated, very concerned, very desperate people and we completely understand. What I can say is that we haven't let up from a PGE perspective. we, just a couple of things. One, in terms of how we report our information on our PGE website, the information I just received, you have access to it as well. PGE has been very transparent. We have also translated a lot of materials. We have it translated into 7 different languages for our BIPOC members. And we're committed to get everybody up, and we'll continue the 24 hours a day, 18-hour shifts until everybody is up. And I think the biggest kind of conversation or theme that I can just say is we're reminded to be really safe out there. And all of you, I appreciate again, Casey, and certainly all of you have reached out to me to tell me about your critical facilities and to tell me about vulnerable communities. And I still continue, and you have my contact information. Feel free to send those to me. The other part I want to also say is I want to give a shout out to Bisha's not on this call, but after last week's call, she connected us fast. And I mean, we have thousands of crews in Oregon. They are at Chemeketa Community College. They're staging. That's 650 rooms a night in order to house all of these linemen alone. And so thanks to her and making some calls and also bringing in Woodburn and Jamie out of the Woodburn, she was just able to connect us to a lot of local lodging where our folks were just making a call. Someone like Abisha and others were able to make those phone calls, and suddenly we had 40 rooms appear. So I just wanted to say thank you to her and to everybody she reached out to that helped us. That's helped us with the logistics and lodging and food. I didn't realize it was 600 a night that we were trying to obtain from all the way from Salem to Portland. But with that, I'm sorry. I hope I was a little clear. But again, and I was trying to find the final number where we're at in Yamhill County, and I don't have that quite in front of me. But I know that we've made significant progress overnight.
That's great. Thank you, Wendy. And I keep hearing from people who are getting their power back on pretty much as they're getting it back on. So it's it's wonderful to hear each time. It's funny how each one seems like a big celebration. So yeah. Thank you for that. Before I open up to questions, though, I want to note that Jody Christensen's meetings around wildfire response and recovery are what Abisha Stone credits as being able to help Wendy with PGE with this power outage. So, at least we're making, at least Jody's efforts during the wildfires are paying a dividend today, right? Okay, are there questions? Oh, sure.
Who would have thought? I thought after the wildfires, okay, hopefully and we have this event. So I will say this for all of us. We're proving as an Oregon community to be a very resilient state and a very resilient community. And what I didn't note is all the thank yous, but we have had so many people step forward to say kind words. In the city of Dayton, they brought our line, when they were so excited to see our line guys, they brought them Subway sandwiches and chips. I mean, that's just the kind of generosity, and they really appreciate that because, of course, they've been at it for 13 days, 18-hour shifts. So they really understand that their work is important, but it certainly helps to get that feedback. So, I mean, there's been multiple examples of people's kindness and generosity throughout the region.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've been amazed by it, but I might say that your line crews also were pretty excited just on their own. When the folks flipped that last switch that energized our street or our road, they started shouting from the bucket truck. So, we were starting to shout, but they beat us to it.
That's wonderful. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm actually trying to see if I can find the Yamhill County number as I'm waiting for questions.
Okay, perfect. Are there questions from folks here today?
I have a question just on the line of communication between each city, like for instance, city managers, what sort of mechanism you have set up for that communication? Is it by telephone? Do you have a sort of a real-time online portal of, what's happening in each community, that type of thing?
Well, I think, so the communication has been with all of the city managers. In some instances, our local elected officials play dual roles. But the communication has been direct, either through email, text, or phone. Every city manager has my personal cell number and my work cell number. My personal cell, my work cell wasn't working, so we need to switch. So that communication has been ongoing and daily, particularly if a city manager identified any particular critical facility like water or sewer, which has always been a high priority for us in terms of restoration, because that is a necessity that serves the entire community. And then also they've also identified, senior facilities and other vulnerable communities, and they've also provided that. And what happened is they've sent it to me, and then I provided an update as soon as I've received an update about where are we, or if there was a live wire in the middle of the street, then that's a safety issue. They reported it, and I reported it as an immediate safety need and response. And so we've been working it that way.
Thank you.
Other questions for Wendy? I must say that your CEO has also been pretty impressive lately too. Yeah.
She is. She's awesome.
Yeah, I actually sent her a sewer plant operator from Aurora who couldn't think of who else to reach out to, and she called him. I was like, really? Okay, that's great. So
all hands on. When she says all hands on deck, it means it also includes her. So she's been taking calls herself and helping resolve issues and getting information out. So that commitment is from the lineman all the way to our president and CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much, Wendy, for joining us. And Jody also has, I think it's good information for us and positive good news, but we'll see. Jody, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Just checking my audio is okay. I was unable to test it before I got on. Thank you. So as the commissioner may have shared with everyone, or you may already know, the county is moving down a risk level. So it's moving from extreme risk to high risk. And that opens up more opportunity for Main Street businesses. Joy is sharing. This will include indoor dining. So I don't know if all of you have enjoyed outdoor dining, but chilly out there. So while we still encourage outdoor dining, we still encourage curbside sales. We, in this new risk level, which will start on Friday for Yamhill County, it should be noted that Marion and Polk County are all moving down to the high risk level, which is good. It's good to have the region together in this. As I said, it does open opportunity for Main Street businesses, our restaurants and bars. It moves the capacity numbers are higher, and I'm happy to take any questions. We've been living in high risk or extreme risk for so long. I haven't had to get too fine of detail on these lower risks. But my hope is that this will be next few weeks we'll be moving down to the lowest risk. So I'm happy to take any questions.
And Jody, just real quickly, thank you for that. I know that Joya is probably going to get on them, but what's the capacity for bars, restaurants, and tasting rooms for indoor?
So for eating and drinking establishments, and for this group, for your email list, I'm going to send out a one-pager that I use as a reference guide. So for indoor dining, the indoor capacity is not to exceed 25% or a maximum of 50. And the outdoor maximum moves to 75. And indoor-outdoor seating is 6 people per party and per table maximum, and it's a limit of 2 households. So the combination of a dining unit, if you will, can be 2 households as long as they're separated. So that is, I think, an excellent thing considering the weather right now.
Yes, absolutely. Although it's getting nice. Whew. But we're in the unpredictable stage, I guess, right?
Yes. I'm thinking at evening dining, this is still a bit chilly. I experienced that last week, so.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question. Thank you, Jody. So good to see you. It's been forever. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for all you're doing. So question. So that chart that we have, that's the colored chart that shows,
Yep.
We should follow that, right? Is that what you're going to send us?
Yes, you want to make sure that you have the one that is dated 1/29.
Okay.
So there are two versions. The last one was 12/18.
Mhm.
The current version is January 29th, 2021.
I'll
So
check to
that's the
see, but
version.
you're going to send it out to us anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you so much. What a relief.
It is a relief. And I highly recommend, as always, when you're working with your businesses and getting them the information, you want to make sure that they're looking at the sector guidance that's specific to the region. There's a nifty way that they can search by county, and then they can look that up. The FAQs for each of those sectors are critical. So when you send us questions, when coordinators get those questions, we field them to the Oregon Health Authority. They answer the question, and then we embed it in the FAQs. So when you see that sector guidance, it's really important. All of the guidance has been translated up to 12 languages. So it is a very useful tool, and we encourage everyone to use that.
Great. Thank you. Joya, did you have any more questions you wanted to ask? Okay, great. Jody, thank you for delivering this good news to us.
Yes. It's nice to be able to deliver good news.
we saw it as commissioners a little bit earlier, but I wasn't sure if it was public or not, but it feels public now that Jody's telling us.
There will be a press release coming out as well. Last week I had a meeting with county administrators for the 3 counties, and some of the concerns that they shared with me are things that I think you as leaders should be aware of, that is the pressure of the pent-up desire to go out and participate at this new level. There's still some time and forgiveness that needs to be given so the businesses can ramp up. So it's just sharing the good news with all of our community members, but making sure that they give some grace to businesses to be able to ramp up and fully serve in this new guidance. It's only a few days ahead of that, so we just want to make sure that that's given. And then also for city facilities. So some facilities will be able to open under this new guidance, and they've got to bring back staff. They have to make sure that everything's running the way it should, because it has been shut down for some time. So just giving a bit of, while it opens on Friday, it may not be officially open until a few days later.
Right, that's a good warning. Good clarification. And I would note that Wendy Valise noted that there's less than 500 people in Yamhill County who are still without power. So thank you for that update. Are there other questions or comments for Jody Christensen? Remy, do you have any on behalf of all of the wine community? You get to speak now on behalf of all of them.
No pressure. I'm actually texting my group text of restaurateurs, not winery owners, because of course the effect on restaurants, while all of us have been affected, restaurants are dealing with perishable product. So even throughout closures, making and delivering our non-perishable product has been a lot easy. Well, I won't say it's been easy by any means, but we haven't had to deal with some of those same losses of product during closures. And then we also don't have to ramp up our inventory in order to be able to start accommodating people. I won't ask a question on behalf of the wine industry. Actually, what I'll say to people is make reservations. One of the hardest things for us in the service industry has been the unpredictability of flow. And it's very difficult to staff for when you haven't had, when you don't, there's nothing reliable to base it on, like there would be historically for any industry. You know your high seasons, your low seasons, and you can adjust. So I just, really ask the community to not only support the eating and drinking establishments, but to do it by making reservations so that those restaurants can plan, staff, and have enough product on hand so that they can put all that good food in your bellies. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Joya, thank you, Remy. And I think that's a really good point. Make reservations.
Yeah.
And it helps county offices too, is Clerk Van Bergen's comments. Joya.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Councillor Drapkin, what she said made me think too that, our business's greatest concern is that if they open up, that they're going to have to be closed again. And so that makes them pause to say, do we really want to do this or not? And so I know we have no guarantee that we're not going to go back up to extreme again. It's a touchy situation for people, I think. And so I would also maybe say that, when you go to your restaurants and you're out there with your friends and doing all those things, take into consideration the impact that, could happen to our community. And if we're not thoughtful about what we're doing, and we could end up in an extreme, risk again. Because it's very, very hard, as Councillor Drapkin said, to ramp yourself up again. It takes a week. It is not, I'm going to call my produce guy today and I'm going to get 50 pounds of, potatoes. That's not how it works. You have to plan ahead. So it's important to think about that. Thank you.
What I would add too is that we need to also encourage everyone to continue to follow wearing masks, and washing your hands and distancing. We have the variants in Oregon, and the variants are highly transmissible. And we don't want to see, as people start to move more in the community and out in our businesses, we don't want to see the risk of transmission. So this is wonderful news that we're opening up, but this in no way means that we should relax our basic safety around making sure that we're not exposing others and that we're not exposed. So I'll give you an example. Several alliterations ago in the guidance, it was wear a mask into a restaurant, sit down, take your mask off, eat and consume food, put your mask back on if you were going to use the restroom or leave. Now the guidance says if you're not eating or drinking at your table, you should be wearing your mask. It's not for the people who are sitting at the table, it's for the wait staff that's serving you. You want to make sure that you're not exposing them at any point during that. So when you're not eating and drinking at your table, you should be wearing a mask. And I think that that's really important. There's some that we need to be so diligent in this in these next steps forward. We're still in this for the next several months, and so we want to make sure that people continue to just have this become a part of their normal. Because as we start to move down that risk level, there's going to be more and more opportunity to expand our experiences, but we don't want to expand the risk.
Those are really good words. Thank you both to Joya and to Jody for that. And it's kind of hard to say Joya and Jody quickly, just both of those for some reason. But Councillor Drapkin has a comment.
Thank you. Actually, this is a question, Jody. I'm curious about methodology as we move forward. So one of the frustrations that I've heard a lot in the food and beverage industries have been that we have been treated as this, and I understand this has happened for a lot of industries, but with this blanket treatment for all restaurants, all tasting rooms, et cetera. The lack of individualism means that those who have been very devoted to creating safe environments are then suffering from those, or in part, those that haven't. And then as we move forward, we already know now, it's not hypothetical. There are restaurant owners in our county who are outspokenly denouncing rules, working against them, advertising that they're open, that you don't have to wear masks. They're hosting live music events. And so a lot of conversation that I've heard is a kind of a request that the governor's office would start to, as we move forward and knowing that this is going to last for a while, that we start getting a more individualized responses. Could OSHA, instead of looking at us as an industry as a whole, where OSHA is already in the habit of not looking at us as an industry as a whole, but coming in and doing specific safety inspections, could that be part of how we move forward so that those restaurants, wineries, breweries, etc., that are diligent in their practices with their staff and their staff training, that have done risk assessments, that have followed kind of every step and every measure, and are creating what we're being told are relatively safe environments. Is there any conversation going forward that about a change in methodology?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I certainly understand the frustration to have outliers as part of the community elevates the risk of exposure. And certainly OSHA and the complaint system is part of that process and how to manage. We also can enforcement through regulations like OLCC coming in and making changes to that business so they won't be able to provide those services. So I think we have heard from the very beginning of this that there was a desire to have sort of an individual approach to it, and I appreciate the thought behind that. I can tell you that the current system that we're in, this risk level approach, this model that we're using right now, is effective. And we're seeing numbers coming down. And the modeling that we had without this guidance put in place would have looked very different. We would be in a very different situation in Oregon. So we know that the risk level guidance is working. We're not projecting any changes to that approach at this time. I will tell you, though, when we had several of the counties in the extreme risk, we did work with the Oregon Health Authority and the Medical Advisory Panel in modifying some of the guidance there. And I've asked the question, will there be additional modifications? And I was told not at this time because we're concerned about the variants. And we're seeing this approach is working. So that being said, I think that what we know about our response to COVID is that we know more today than we knew yesterday, and that continues to be the case, that we continue to learn more about this virus and certainly more about the variants that are part, unfortunately, of this situation that we're in. So I appreciate that. And I certainly, this isn't, we hear that often about sort of a more of an individualized approach. And I certainly will share that in the conversations that I'm a part of, but I do know that this approach is currently working and there's great confidence in it.
Thank you, Jody. And thank you for asking the question, Councillor. All right, are there any other questions? It is 2:00. Lots of you have to move on to other things, but I want to say I really appreciate both Wendy and Jody for joining us today to give us updates from PGE and from the Oregon Health Authority and the Governor's Office. Thank you both very much. If there aren't any more questions for Jody, because I want to make sure she can move on to the things she needs to, I'm going to move us on to Steve Sugg. Sorry, I'm like getting distracted by chats. But Steve, what would you like to share with folks about the Dayton School District, vaccines for educators, kind of moves to hybrid model? And thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. We're just kind of moving through all of those things. So we're moving closer and getting more excited about having kids back in hybrid and getting our teachers vaccinated and just moving forward. Sports are kind of back. I think most of the schools in the county have opted for contact sports, for outdoor contact sports. So that's moving forward. So we can look forward to streaming some of those events over the internet. So people will be able to watch them, not in person, but over the internet at least, see the high school football, soccer, and maybe volleyball, depending on if we can stay in the high risk category. So.
All right, thank you very much. And I only have a few people now left that I need to get to. Thank you for joining us. Joya Goodrum, what would you like to share with people? You've done a lot, but a lot of good information and updates. Was there anything else? It looks like no is the answer. Okay, that sounds good. And then Council President Ward Mullen, what would you like to share with people in the community? And thank you for your concern and your focus on emergency preparedness. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, that was actually what I was going to bring up, that this recent ice storm really highlighted for me the need to focus in on emergency preparedness, not only for the operations of the city, but also in terms of having a real plan that's on the ground and working with the various neighborhoods within Carlton to, sort of have a good neighbor program and communication, all the things that are necessary to put in place in the time of an emergency. And, to me, this was just like I know it was very serious, but it was a real wake-up call to a real devastating disaster, which hopefully will never happen, but we have to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do need to be prepared, and our children are like, well, is it going to happen next year? Are we going to have a Cascadia event next year, or is it in 2 years? I say, it might not even be in any of our lifetimes, but we really don't want to be unprepared. Yeah, and just in our personal home and coming from earthquake country, active earthquake country in California and San Francisco, I realized during this how unprepared we were in our own home. I mean, little tiny matches and all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes, right. Being without power we were out without power for 8 days, and it was good to see what systems were not ready. Just for our little community. But, the island has its own culture, and it's definitely one of, we help each other out even in risky scenarios. So there were people with chainsaws really close to power lines. And I was like, we should probably have that conversation about this is not safe. Go around, right? Because we all want to help. Okay, well, thank you very much for your focus on that. And we will talk more about it, I'm sure. Thank you, Casey. Yeah. And then I wanted to return to Joya because she had a couple of things she wanted to add, but her computer froze because it's 2021. Because, yes, frozen computers, murder hornets, whatever, all kinds of things. Anyway, Shirley, you had a question about the SBA, and so I sent it to Commissioner Kula for him to send out to all of us, but it is starting on February 24th, which is in tomorrow. So that's there, and if you would like me to send it out, I'm happy to do that. I wanted to make sure people knew about that. And the other thing is gone from my head, so it's okay. I'll get it next time. The most important thing, though, is we're opening on Friday, and I am overjoyed, and so are our businesses. If anybody has any questions, they can give us a call. We're happy to help. Thank you. So, Joya, just one quick question. So the new PPP process is outside of the current legislation that's pending in Congress? Yes, I believe so, because they announced steps. It says here it's from the SBA. They said the Biden-Harris administration and the SBA announced steps the agency is taking
with the Paycheck Protection Program to further promote equitable relief for America's mom and pop businesses. So it's for really small businesses under 20 employees. And they will establish a 14-day exclusive PPP loan application period for businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 20 employees. So you have to jump on this pretty quickly. And it looks as though there's more to read about it. Of course, I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but we'll get it out to you, and you can always. I'll read through it once we're off this call, and then I'll translate for everybody.
Thank you, Joya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Perfect, Joya. And yeah, feel free to send whatever translation or whatever information to me, because I'm getting in the little corner here popping up a bunch of emails. So what I'll try to do is consolidate and then send out to everybody on Roundtable as one email. And that way we can just make sure that we all send it out to folks who really need it.
Great. Thanks, Casey.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. And then I just wanted to do one quick update, which is that we continue to get vaccine doses into the county. I believe that public health got 1,000 new doses this week. They'll all be administered by the end of the week, and those are for a few remaining phase 1 eligible individuals. So healthcare workers, folks with chronic health needs who are stuck at home, folks in that category. And some of them are really hard to reach. Home healthcare aides, for example, are very hard to reach sometimes. Then we have educators who continue to be vaccinated, and then we're moving through eligibility for folks who are over. I think we're moving into folks who are over 70 coming up next, but this week is 75 and above. And so those doses continue to come into the county, and people continue to get administered those doses. We also have a separate stream of doses into the county for Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center. So we have about 300 doses for each of the past couple of weeks that are specifically to them, for them to administer to their patients and folks who are associated with it. And then, as some of you know, there's also pharmacies now, commercial pharmacies, who are getting in 100 doses at a time and opening up appointments to their existing customers. And then the last one is that, as I think some of you know, Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde have also been continuing to receive doses through their own separate pipeline. And as they each week they will say, hey, members of our tribal community, do you need doses? Do you want them? And then after they hear no, then they open up remaining doses to people in the community. So there's public health is still the primary administrator of doses right now, but it's wonderful to have these different streams coming into the county, because it really, really does help increase the number of people per week who are vaccinated.
Yeah.
And again, there's the form that you can fill out, and you can help other people fill out, that's on the county public health page, that will let them know when you're eligible that you want to have an appointment, and then they'll reach out to you for an appointment. Joya has a question or a comment.
Sorry, no, actually, I wanted to thank the county, because you guys are waiving the registration fees for restaurants. Thank you. And that is a huge, $600 to a small business restaurant right now is a lot of money. And thank you. And if they've already paid the fees, they're getting their money back. That was my second thing I had to talk about. Thank you. Thank you to the county. You guys are awesome.
That's right. And it was one of those wonderful moments when we, at the end of our meeting, I said, hey, commissioners, let's consider this thing. And Commissioner Starrett said, I'm already working on that. I said, great. So it's proof that, one, we don't talk between meetings, and two, that we really are thinking about people in the community, all of us independently. So hooray. And yes, it's the annual inspection fees, and public health is getting those costs covered through our general fund, with the hopes that it will be reimbursable through the next round of federal relief. But either way, we're still committed to it, and we have the funding to do it. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. One sobering note. Oh, sorry. Yes, Mayor.
No, go ahead. That's fine. I was just going to say thank you to Joya.
Well, you can say thank you to Joya.
And thank you to the commission. Anyway, yes. Go ahead.
Well, so I did note that while our case counts are dropping wonderfully, it's a great trend. one of the things that we've seen over the past 12 months, is that case counts are the first indicator of a wave of infections, right? And then you get hospitalizations. And then unfortunately, the deaths follow that. And right now we actually see we're near our record high numbers. We've come down by just a few people in terms of hospitalizations right now. So people in Yamhill County who are currently hospitalized with coronavirus or with COVID-19. So I think that's an important thing to just keep in mind as things open up, is that we lag, and it's hard for all of us to see those folks, right? Because they're in hospitals. You can't visit them. It's just an important thing to remember, is that we do need to be still careful. And I really appreciated, I thought, Joya, that you made a very good point in connecting us being careful with reopening businesses. So thank you, because they're both important. All right, if there isn't anything else, then we will see you next week. And thank you. Remember out there that everybody who's here works for you, and we will help you as you reach out. Thank you, and be safe.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah.